path?
No, my only Muhammad Ali story is you remember because you're closer in age when remember everything was on closed circuit in theaters and auditoriums, wasn't on TV. And so his fight in Manila with Joe Frazier, so that was being shown in Pauley Pavilion. Our locker room was in Pauley Pavilion. Me and one of my teammates really wanted to see the fight, but we really didn't have the money to pay for the admission. So after our practice, we got changed, and then we basically stood on the toilet for like an hour until they cleared out Pauley. And then once it was all clear and we heard some people were in there, then we got down, and so we were in the event. We saw the Thriller from Manila without paying a dime. Don't tell the school, but I was a huge Ali fan. He's, and what he did, I think his biggest sacrifice was just not taking the money. It could have been easy for him to just go into the armed forces. They would have let him box. He could have continued to make money, but he stood by his principles, which is admirable.
So the guys looked for the past, Dana, I guess the 2 days you brought him back?
It's been good. It's just a matter of getting just back in the rhythm, getting your touch back. Anytime you take a break, it just takes a couple of days to get your touch back. They worked very hard these last 2 days, so tomorrow a little off day, catch themselves, and then we'll get some good tactical work in on Sunday, Monday, in preparation for the game on Wednesday.
Marshall fully back?
Yeah, Marshall's fully back. Zach Scott's fully back, yeah.
Marshall, how much of influence did the 2-week break have on your decision to not kind of force him in against EC?
It was just important to make sure that when we put him back in that he'd be right, and there was no need to try and make the injury bigger or longer than it had to be. And so if he didn't feel 100% in terms of sprinting, we decided that we were just going to go other ways.
In light of the break in MLS, are you do you have any idea, are you going to use the Open Cup game any differently, maybe in almost like a preseason game to get your starters back in, or normal?
No, the Open Cup game we're using the same way we would use an Open Cup game, in this round, depending upon the opponent and everything else and location of the game. So, I think it's great. I wish we'd have a 2-week break in the middle of every season, so I'll try and put that out there. Maybe MLS will watch this interview and agree with me.
Any predictions for tomorrow with the U.S. and Paraguay?
It's still an important game, for the U.S. because Paraguay can obviously sneak ahead of them, and the Copa America is much tougher than the European Nations Cup, because in Europe it used to be like this when they only had 16 teams and only 2 advanced, so it's a much tougher proposition now. It's easier over there, so with only 2 teams advancing, you're never quite secure. If it was 3 teams advancing at this stage, you'd feel okay, we'll get on to the next round. But right now, you can't be 100% for sure. So U.S. needs to get a win. I think they can get a win, but obviously Paraguay is a desperate team, and you always got to be wary of a desperate team.
And with Clint's role, both kind of positionally and as a leader, do you see any similarities with how he's being used with the national team right now and what you guys are asking from him here?
He's basically playing in the same type of position as we played him in for a couple of games, although then we dropped him underneath Jordan. But if you watched in the second half of the game, they did the same thing by moving Bobby Wood into the middle and playing Clint in the middle with him. So the roles really aren't really significantly different than what we're asking him to do here.
During an Argentina preview, so who do you think's the best player either in the world right now or that you've seen, and where does Messi figure in the conversation?
You're always a little bit sentimentally leaning towards somebody that maybe you saw play or you have an association with. So for me, I don't have that association with Ronaldo. As an example, I know when I was a youngster growing up, I got to see Pelé live many times and close up, and so that was always for me the best player. There were other guys, Cruyff I saw live, and obviously he went up, but I'd seen Pelé so many times. And with Messi, the thing is, in 2005 when I coached the U.S., he played against us with Argentina. And so when we were preparing for the game, I'd seen him a lot on videotape. I knew who this guy was. I was very happy that Argentina's coach didn't play him the first half against us, and we were able to take a 1-0 lead. And my best Spanish, I thank the coach for not playing him until the second half, because he ran wild on us the second half until I think Benny Feilhaber finally kicked him and knocked him to the ground, and he slowed down a little bit. But his his control in tight spaces, his imagination, his balance, his his explosion is just something that can't be taught. I mean, something that you have or you don't have. And so for me, seeing him up close, I was in Barcelona a couple of years ago. I was able to watch him play live there as well. Just for me, he's just a cut above. But as with all those players, at the end of the day, when you talk about the Pelés, what made Pelé is 3 World Cups at the end of the day. What made Maradona is the World Cup. What made Beckenbauer is the World Cup. That was always a little thing on Cruyff because he didn't get the World Cup. And with Messi, that's the thing people are looking for. Yeah, with his club team, he's won everything. And now can he finally lead Argentina to the promised land?